Hey, it's King. Welcome back to this edition of Midweek Motives. Today we're going to continue on our discussion of how we interact with other cultures and ethnicities, especially around during these celebratory times for us. For me, it's Black History Month, and during other things, like especially with the next few months we got coming. We have St. Patrick's Day in March. We have Cinco de Mayo in May, Juneteenth following that, as well as Americans' Independence Day in July, just to name a few. So today I want to continue with asking a few questions, like our motives behind how we interact with these things. A lot of us do these things just for, I've noticed, for pure fun, for the pure joy, and miss out on the complete idea of what the day is meant for a certain group of people or for what it's supposed to mean in totality. And that even goes down to the American Independence Day. That's a day that we're supposed to be celebrating our veterans, and most people just use it as an excuse to get drunk, which has kind of been the theme for celebrating all of these holidays as of late, and as more as I get to kind of pay attention to them in my adulthood. So my questions for you are, one, do you believe that the way you are celebrating these things honors the day? Is there anything that you can do to actually honor the day with the way you're still celebrating it? Because right now, with Black History Month, it's a lot of symbolism. But how many of you have actually taken time to read books and taken time to listen to lectures? Especially considering that we still have some of these major influential people around today. Angela Davis, who was actually arrested during the Civil Rights Movement, was her own lawyer and got herself off of a case that I think would have given her life in prison. And she's free to this day. These things are part of the celebration of this month that need to be acknowledged, as well as another one, Martin Luther King. We get to hear a lot about his "I Have a Dream" speech and his nonviolence, but not many people acknowledge the fact that he had a negative approval rating when he was assassinated. That once he started speaking on economics and group economics to help the black community is when the United States government decided to assassinate him. And if you actually didn't know that, that's actually something you can Google. The United States is found guilty for the assassination of Martin Luther King. It's something that never made headlines, but that's our country. We are more on clickbait and trying to get things that fuel the agenda of us being the best country in the world, when we actually only lead the world in very negative things like obesity, child mortality rate, and things of those nature. Then two, are you taking do you feel that you have the right to these things? A big thing that's pushed in America is multiculturalism. Do you believe that allows for you to create your own identity around these things? I actually 100% disagree. Let me make sure that's clear. I 100% disagree with multiculturalism. It's not fair to take somebody's culture and be able to use it in your way just because you're around that group of people. It takes away from the significance, it takes away from the honor, and it's just overall disrespectful in my eyes. If you are close to somebody and they bring you in on these things, I think it's perfectly acceptable for you to be a part of them. But while you're being a part of them, you should be an observer, not someone openly walking around in a dashiki. Someone, if you choose to participate in Ramadan because you have a friend who is Muslim, it's not to go for you to go throw on a hijab or any of their cultural wear and essentially mock them without really understanding why they wear these things. Same for Black History Month, acknowledging why we have the heroes and the leaders that we have. Also, I think it takes away from the fact that our government systematically assassinated our black leaders throughout the early 60s and 70s. If you don't know, you should look up COINTELPRO. It speaks on that a lot. And then the same, let's go with the Native American headdresses and things like that. I went to middle school and high school down in Champaign-Urbana, which is the home of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, our state school. There was a debate. There are actually still people debating it about the chief who used to come out and dance at halftime when there was nothing. It's not a Native American school. It's not something that teaches these things, and it's not something where an actual Native American person was actually the person behind the mascot. And to also turn something that is sacred to them, the chief, into a mascot right there is very disrespectful and demeaning to the work it takes for people to earn that position within their tribe. So moving forward, before we get into Friday, because Friday I'm going to hit you guys with a lot of facts and things that go around these things. I'm going to use a lot of leaders from all these different groups to point out these feelings and help you understand further as to why these things need to be addressed, and why we each as an individual need to look at ourselves and check ourselves on how we choose to interact with these days, months, or ceremonies, however, whatever the term may be. Then also, do you really consider yourself an ally? One of the things that bothers me with this is because sometimes people will support you with one thing, but then another thing looks a little different. Perfect example, I'll take it back to the beginning of the pandemic when George Floyd was murdered in cold blood by essentially 3 or 4 police officers, but one mainly who had his knee on his neck and was smirking the entire time. But then you go fast forward about 2 months later to Elijah McClain being killed, and the whole message around that seemed so different. It was like, oh, he was innocent. He was such a small, sweet boy that this shouldn't happen to him. When for George Floyd, it took a lot of defense and a lot of proving things wrong before people were willing to say that. And even still to this day, you still have people saying that he deserved it, that he deserved what happened to him. At no point does anyone deserve to die for anything. I don't believe that any human should have the right to take somebody's life unless you are actually defending your own, which in these cases, this wasn't the case. And in a lot of these instances, whether you take it back from take it back all the way to the Trail of Tears with the Native Americans, we don't acknowledge how much of the land that we live on is stolen land. Actually, not all of the land that we live on is stolen land. Columbus came over here and essentially routed this nation of its indigenous people and took it over and claimed it as its own, as if people weren't here before. So just to kind of get into that without going too deep or going too far off on a tangent, I want you to really take some time to look back, to take some time to sit down and have a conversation with somebody from a different culture. I mean, and if you don't have any friends, reach out to a minister, reach out to someone in a leadership role in these communities and see if you can talk to them. Take some time to look up things on YouTube and actually listen to people of that culture speaking about it, not someone from a different culture who claims to be an expert or read a few books on it. There's a big difference in reading and learning and experiencing things. And you don't get to say that someone's experience is invalid because you haven't experienced their plight. So moving forward, take that time, really look back. I think this entire month should be a big reflection because of the way this country was born and the way this country has stolen so much from the indigenous people of it and from other people that it had brought over to this country, and others that still live in this country and are using these things as divisive entities to keep us fighting and arguing and things amongst other things that continue to keep continue to grow the divide that we as an American people and we as a people in general who have to cohabitate in this country together to continue to create that divide when we are all actually more alike than we are different. But we also should be able to highlight and celebrate those differences that we have, as well as take it time to do those things in a very healthy and controlled manner versus the wild and party nature that seems to come with just about every holiday and celebration that we have in America. And also, to wrap this up, why do you think that getting drunk and partying has become the way to celebrate everything? Something I've asked myself, and I can't come to an answer. It's something I'm always going to think on and ponder moving forward. But I hope that you all take some time to reflect and look back on these things and ask yourself if the way you interact with other people and other cultures is healthy. Is it beneficial to both parties? Because I'm a strong believer that there shouldn't be a relationship unless it's mutually beneficial to both any and every party involved. So I'm gonna leave you with that for tonight. I hope you guys have a great evening. I hope you guys take some time to reflect on these things. I hope we all take some time to grow and learn in ways that can bring us together and reduce this divide, while maintaining our individuality and our culture's sanctity and